Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back today with a donation deck list from Renato. This is Punishing Field, which is a Reclaimer based deck. I guess you could say it's a Dryad of the Elysian Grove based deck that utilizes the power of Dryad, which turns all your lands into every type, which works really well with Valakut Exploration. It means your lands like Field of the Dead tap for any mana, so it really fixes your mana, which is nice. Being a 2/4, it's actually a little bit harder to deal with for some decks that are running cards like Punishing Fire or Lightning Bolt, which is fantastic. And it obviously is also a Green Sun Zenith deck. So this deck is probably one that I'd recommend Maverick players who are wanting to maybe play a different style of deck. It has a lot of really nice kill conditions in it as well, either through Dryad and Valakut, longer games through Field of the Dead and Primeval Titan. It also just has a really good beatdown strategy of getting Reclaimers to 3/4s and beating down with those. It has Clothis, which is obviously quite good against some of the mid-range and control decks in the format right now. Has a lot of play to it, which is really cool. To find your creatures and lands, it's playing Once Upon a Time, which is really nice. I think Once Upon a Time is fantastic in a deck that runs both a land suite and a creature suite, so you can take advantage of both sides. A little bit like a Green-Black Depths deck that might be wanting to find both Hexmage or Thespian Stage and Dark Depths. This deck can make sure that either you're finding a Dryad or an Elvish Reclaimer, a Green Sun's target like Scavenging Ooze against some of the graveyard decks. It allows you to maybe find something like Wasteland or Karakas in decks where you really want those early on. Just a really nice card. Sylvan Library, still one of my favorite green cards of all time. Probably my favorite green enchantment. Probably one of your best ways to fight some of the combo and control decks. Just be able to dig for things like Scavenging Ooze or Clothis, or some of your sideboard cards like Deafening Silence. Sylvan Library, really nice. And of course, Green Suns. We do have Ramp in this deck as well with Dryad Arbor as a turn 1 play, which is nice. And then just with Elvish Reclaimer, obviously you have some nice targets, so it's great for getting your mana base online, finding Karakas, Wasteland. Obviously very good with Flagstones. So Flagstones with Elvish Reclaimer means you get 2 lands from it. Flagstones saying when it goes to the graveyard, you can search your library for a Plains card and put it into play. So that doesn't just mean a basic Plains, it could be a Plateau, it could be a Savannah, which is really nice. So once you get the Flagstones going with Elvish Reclaimer, it's a really nice way to ramp. For added removal in the main deck, we have 4 Swords, which is pretty straightforward. And then we also have 3 Punishing Fires, which is pretty nice. Punishing Fire, I think in a pretty okay position. It's a little bit tough when it does come up against something like Bolt, which is obviously a very nice removal spell. But with cards like Ochre and Dreadhorde no longer in the format, I think the average toughness of creatures has definitely dropped. And outside of things like Tarmogoyf and Another Reliquary and Hooting Mandrills, Punishing Fire is pretty solid, especially against Delver. And Maverick decks, Death and Taxes, even decks like Hogak, it can be pretty nice from stopping them to be able to go wide too far. One of the fun ofs that we actually have in this deck is Huntmaster of the Fells. A pretty interesting card, one that was printed in Standard when I was playing Standard, which is cool. I have a huge love for this card. In a lot of the top decking games, it's really nice to have on board. With Punishing Fire, we do have ways to make sure we can cast 2 spells a turn to flip it back, which is cool. But I think that Huntmaster is really nice, especially as a 4-drop. With a lot of players playing Questing Beast or Shifting Ceratops, this is probably one of the only 4-drops left that really give you some advantage straight up. It gives you the life gain, it gives you the 2/2 to attack with, which can be really nice in a Punishing Maverick version with a card like Stoneforge Mystic and Equipment, which, the token can then really become a nice threat if they do deal with the Huntmaster. And then also, of course, if you do get a chance for it to flip, being able to remove a creature is awesome, or to steal some extra damage to your opponent. It is hard to fit it in to a competitive, a deck I'm taking to a challenge deck where there are cards like Shifting Ceratops and Huntmaster of the Fells, and Questing Beast. But Huntmaster, I think it's pretty cool to test out, and a really nice card that if I am top decking with my opponent, it's a pretty nice Green Suns target. To the board for Graveyard Hate, we have Bojuka Bog, which can be found as early as turn 2 with Elvish Reclaimer. I guess it could be found turn 1 with Once Upon a Time, let's be honest. Fairy Macabre, another card that I really like with a few decks ticking up like Black Red Reanimator I've been seeing a lot of. So Macabre, nice because it can't be countered, and you can find it with Once Upon a Time, so you can actually dig for it, which is pretty cool. Veil of Summer, good against some of the combo decks and the control decks, just making sure your spells do resolve, and hand disruption isn't an issue. Carpet of Flowers is pretty nice. It really turns off the soft counter magic from decks like Rog in maybe Spell Pierce or Daze, and this deck of course can use mana for Daze. Either a massive Green Sun Zenith or getting something like Primetime into play. Carpet, really strong. Collector Oof is just a nice Green Suns target against some of the Death and Taxes decks. Any Stoneforge Mystic kind of deck I really want to play this against. Eighth of Isle decks, and then of course any sort of Urza Stompy decks or those with LED or Lotus Petal. Tireless Striker, just a nice grindy card as well. There are some games where you just want to be able to outgrind your opponent, and it's not all about just you know, playing creatures for the sake of playing creatures. Tireless Striker is really nice because if you play it as kind of a 4-drop, you do get that clue straight away. So if you do have a fetch land, you're obviously getting 2 cards essentially down the line for it, which is cool. Tracker also really nice with Carpet of Flowers because you can use the mana from Carpet to start cracking clues and drawing cards. Anger of the Gods is an interesting one as a sweeper. I think it's pretty cool. We do have a lot of big creatures. Cards like Reclaimer and Dried Arbor are X4s the majority of the time, which is nice, so don't get hit by Anger. And the Exile is pretty relevant against decks like Bug Hogak, just making sure your opponent can't get them back. Or even something like Maverick where your opponent might be able to drop a Scooze after you've cleaned the board with something like Pyroclasm and then just take over the game with that Scavenging Ooze. Anger, of course, does stop that, which is cool. Blast Effect's great against the blue decks. It's good for this deck to have some option to play on the stack, especially in games 2 and 3. So being able to Pyroblast something like a True Name Nemesis or Jace the Mind Sculptor is really strong. Deafening Silence to round it out, mainly for combo. Really good at just keeping them at sort of parity with you, just casting 1 spell a turn. Great against the sort of Ant and Tez decks and other combo decks like Urza Stompy. I'm a huge fan of this card in fair decks because it is really good turn 1 interaction. We just can't rely on it. We have to draw that and then hopefully keep building out with pressure, things like Scavenging Ooze or Clothis to make sure we can just keep that damage rolling as well. So this should be really fun. I'm a big fan of these sort of decks, and I'm always learning how to play them optimally because you know, there's times where when you have an Elvish Reclaimer turn 1, it's better to hold up Reclaimer turn 2 and start getting Flagstones going than it is to, you know, maybe Green Suns for Dried Arbor or another Reclaimer. So always learning. Let's see how we go with this. We'll see you in game 1. Thanks. Hey, welcome back to game 1. This is an interesting hand. It doesn't have a green source, but it does have a Once Upon a Time, and we are on the draw, so we do also get a draw off this. So I'm actually going to see how this goes. A little bit risky, of course, not having a green source, but we do have 2 lands to play. I'm pretty happy to see how this forms. Good luck to my opponent. And this is definitely a hand where once is very powerful. It's going to be interesting to see if my opponent is on a blue deck, because I might want to play a land before casting it, just to stop my opponent from being able to daze it. Because if we do untap, don't draw a green source, and then cast the once without playing a land first, to obviously try to hit one to play Reclaimer, it can be pretty blown up in our face if we don't get that ability to do that. So let's see what we draw. Volk Pass is interesting because it could be something like Daze. Sorry, like Stifle. It could also be something like a Show and Tell deck that just has a turn 2 Show and Tell of an Ancient Tomb or City. I'm going to assume it's also a Bolt deck, so I kind of like holding off the Reclaimer for as long as possible. I don't mind Wasteland Pass and then Wasteland and Upkeep, because if they have Stifle, then at least they Stifle on their turn. This also makes it a little bit awkward if my opponent has something like an end step Brainstorm. Obviously them tapping out off this Volk is pretty huge. And if I can get this Reclaimer to a 3/4 before I play it, I'll be pretty happy. So the more lands in the bin, the better. Okay, no Stifle. Tarn Pass. That's pretty nice. Fetch first. Savannah. I'm gonna once here for free. Nice. Okay. Interesting hand. I don't think I need a second Reclaimer here. I don't need the planes either, but a Wasteland would be really strong if my opponent is on something like Rug Delver and doesn't have any basics. I don't mind going for Wasteland here. And just to get in a position where I can actually cast this Reclaimer as a 3/4, I'm going to use the Green Suns here to ramp and get a Dried Arbor, because at least if the Dried Arbor or the Savannah go to the bin, then we do have a 3/4 Reclaimer coming down. There's also a thought that the second Reclaimer is just another avenue to find a Wasteland down the line, but I don't mind getting Wasteland here. It also means we're just going to keep making sure that we hit our land drops. Sure. So pretty happy to see that that Lightning Bolt hit the Dried Arbor and not our own Reclaimer. Pretty happy just to go back with Wasteland here. They are looking to Brainstorm here, it looks. That's going to be fine. I'm going to let this resolve so they can't, like, daze the Brainstorm. I'd rather just hit the land here and pass. We are open to something like a Hooting Mandrills. That'd be pretty good for my opponent. A little bit far off another threat like a Goyf or a True Name, which is nice, but this definitely looks like Hooting Mandrills. Okay. Punishing Fire. Just gonna go for a basic here, and then play the Elvish Reclaimer. Opponent hasn't played a Daze yet, so it looks like this is going to get forced, pitching a Forced Negation. That's going to be fine. Swords to Plowshare is obviously a really nice out to the Hooting Mandrills. Once, okay. I don't mind planes hold up once instead of holding up Punishing Fire here, because getting Wasteland landed is actually pretty huge, so just going to pass back. We do have a small amount of time as well here, so hopefully we can get this Clothis down, which is pretty huge. See what Ponder wants to do. Chose not to shuffle. Alright, we're taking this. What's once? I don't mind the Grove, because it might get to a situation where I can double Punishing Fire the Hooting Mandrills. Reclaimer. Okay. So I have two options here. I have Clothis or Elvish Reclaimer hold up Punishing Fire. I don't mind Elvish Reclaimer hold up Punishing Fire. It means that Clothis plays around days, but the question is, do I have the time for that? Opponent has 2 cards in hand. Could just play out the Grove and play the Clothis. We take 4. We got a double bolt, but other than that, then we get to recover. I think Clothis is just a little bit better here because I do have to get it online as soon as possible. Don't really have the luxury of playing around days. Okay. Hooting Mangel's a really nice payoff for my opponent after a bit of a wasteland dance. Green Suns. Okay. That's pretty interesting as well. Gonna go for Reclaimer, hold up Punishing Fire. I will block and try to kill this Hooting Mantles. Nice. I can return it here, but I didn't. I meant to, but hopefully that's okay. Now I'm pretty happy to Green Suns for another Elvish Reclaimer. Spell Snare. Okay. They're going to fetch in response to the Punishing Fire, which is interesting. Bolt and me. Does that change how I want to do anything? I don't think so. Oh, cool. 1 second. This is going to be a pretty interesting matchup. I definitely like the carpets on the play. I don't mind the bog, but I'm not too sure if I really need it. The blast effects are also okay. I don't mind just a 1-1 split. Veils are interesting because of counter magic, but I don't think I want to be there. Tireless Tracker is just a little bit too susceptible to all the removal. I don't really need the Knight of Autumn. That can be cut. Primeval Titan is just a really nice payoff, especially with Carpet in the deck. Huntmaster's fine. Do like the Reclaimer and Swords. I'm going to drop down on 1 Sylvan Library and just 2 Onces. I think this is fine. Yeah, this is a pretty good hand. I'll keep this. Pretty happy just to go for Savannah Reclaimer pass. Wasteland. Interesting. Okay. Green Suns is pretty nice. We can go Teeg it into Green Suns. Okay. A land there would have been really nice, but obviously did not hit it. I could hold back Dried Arbor here to pay for days around Pyroblast, which is interesting, or also hold up Punishing Fire. Opponent may be thinking about Submerge. I think I'm happy just to hold back the Dried Arbor here. Just to play around days, which might not be in the deck as a 4 of on the draw, but I think here it's okay. Pretty happy just to Pyroblast this. Try to keep my opponent off being able to get into something. I already have multiple ways to deal with a Delver, so unfortunately it's not like we can hold up Pyroblast next turn. If we draw an untapped land here, we could play a Dryad and then have everything open, which is kind of nice. Especially color-wise. Mandrills is fine. And library. Okay. Wasteland. Okay. This turns Dried on, which is nice. Opponent forcing. Let's counter that. Nice. Nice. Just gonna 6 here. Dryad with the Ramanap is pretty nice. Especially with 2 lands already in the bin. True Name's okay. I feel like we can nearly race it thanks to the Dryad. I am just going to fetch here. Yeah, to stop my opponent from being able to like draw Wasteland and just Wasteland the Valakut in response to my next waste. So the power of Dryad, they're really nice. I think because of True Name, I do want the extra Pyroblast, especially on the draw. I think it's probably the onces that I want to drop. Maybe making room for either Bog or Knight. Hooting Mandrills is always going to be a tough one, just having the swords for those. But we'd also have the Grove and the Punishing Fire, which is nice. Maybe Prime Time is just a little bit too much. And maybe Tracker is where I want to be. Just have a creature that, although it can be bolted, just does a little bit more for me. Especially in the mid game, where I might be pretty far away from casting a Primeval Titan without the carpets, but at least Tiles Tracker is a pretty realistic option. And it might just be the Knight, because It can become a 4/3, which means it does stop a Hooting Vigils until they find a removal spell. It can deal with a Sylvan Library if they have one of those early on. And it can also gain life, which is pretty good against the Delver start from them. It could also be a Veil. Veil can be pretty nice. I could also just see the Karakas coming out, to be fair. Karakas for 2 Veils. We are on the draw though, so we are kind of behind with Veils, which I'm not a big fan of. It's going to be Night, and it might just be at once. I don't mind this, especially when it can come down to just top decks. Once can be pretty good to make sure we can really have the opportunity to keep applying pressure and playing threats. Interesting. A pretty weak hand, seeing we don't have a green source in the opener, unless we Vesuva a Trop. But otherwise, the Carpet with the Green Suns is really nice, and also the Flagstones can't be Wastelanded, which is kind of cool. We could go like Flagstones into Vesuva, copy Flagstones, we lose one, go and find a green source, but that's pretty rough against a Wasteland on the Savannah. It also doesn't have removal. I'm gonna mulligan this. Okay, this is better. I'll keep this in bottom 1 Dryad. Opponent on 7. Pyroblast. We are a little bit behind on mana, so something like Teeg into Dried Arbor is obviously brutal if they have Bolt into Wasteland. I could also just get a green, just a basic here, like a Forest, Green Suns for Dried Arbor, and then hope that the Dryad comes down, and then our lands start tapping for anything. But I'm not sure if that's a winning play. I'm not sure if the Forest into Dried Arbor with 2 green sources just puts us too much in a corner that it doesn't allow us to progress the rest of our hand. So this is actually a pretty big fetch. They kept a 7 with no turn 1 play, so I assume their turn 1 play is going to be a Bolt, but I can't really play around that. I do have to build up my mana here to be able to cast everything I want. I guess if we get a Forest, it means that next turn we can hold up. Okay. So if we go Forest here into Dried Arbor and they kill the Dryad, we then have 2 lands in the bin. Next turn we can play Wasteland, play Elvish Reclaimer, and if they try to kill the Elvish Reclaimer, we have the Wasteland for their land here. So I think that actually works out. Opponent thinking about forcing this. Interesting as well, because if I go for a Forest, it might mean that if I'm going for Forest green source, I have the mana in hand that I need, so I'm not too sure what my opponent might be thinking of basic Forest into Green Suns for Dried Arbor, because it's like, it's only 2 green sources. Opponent having a good thing. A Force here would be pretty good, because it stops the ability for me to have that extra land in the graveyard if they do kill the Dried Arbor. Force, pitch true name. It's pretty big. Wasteland's okay. Pyroblast. I like holding up the Wasteland here, because it means that next turn if we don't get Reclaimer. Okay. Never mind. I was going to say it would be nice if we don't draw land, we still have 2 mana for the Reclaimer, but it looks like this is just going to be a bolt on the Reclaimer. Okay. Wasteland's not too bad. No green source for my opponent, and no fetch either, which is interesting. Still happy to play this out. Another Wasteland. Delver's fine. Have a lot of answers for Delver, which is nice. I'm probably happy putting myself into Wasteland again to use like either Pyroblast or Punishing Fire on the Insect Elaboration and keep the swords for something else. But we will see. Because if my opponent does nothing here, I think I'm okay using the swords. Okay. Still no green source for my opponent, which is pretty nice. That's a huge draw if this resolves. Okay. Opponent has a Braid as a known card. Wow, nothing. Okay. I'm going to put this back, but pay for flagstones. I've already used 1 bolt. I think I'm okay with this. They didn't counter the Sylvan Library, so I'm just going to assume that they don't have a counter for the Dryad Arbor, and I'm okay putting out the Dryad Arbor here. I could wait a turn to play around any counter magic thanks to Pyroblast, but I think this is okay. If they want to force it, that's another win. Just another 2 for 1, which is pretty good. This is also nice because I think I can just... Huh. Interesting. Have they got Gut Shot? Interesting. I wonder if my opponent just didn't know it was a 2/3. At least if they have a True Name here, we do have a Pyroblast. They have nothing. Alright. I do want to get rid of that Dryad Arbor. So we'll fetch here. Submerge. Luckily, we can tap these for any color. Happy to get a Taiga. Ramanap's really nice. Put on top. Put on top. Play Ramanap. Get back Wasteland. Hit Volk. I was going to get back the Wasteland twice. Maybe that was overkill. Maybe I should have back the other land just to make sure I could get value off the Dryad. My opponent hasn't had a land for a long time, so hopefully that's an okay move. They really want a green source, let's be honest. They haven't played a green threat yet, so... I'm gonna float red. Am I happy paying for this? I think I am. Nice. A little bit clumsy from me, and I apologize for that, but yeah, Clothis would have been huge. The Days must have been a late draw as well, but yeah, pretty tough for my opponent. I think as well, maybe it was a little bit greedy going for Wasteland, because the Bolt in response to the first Wasteland does of course mean the second, the ability to get back again isn't there, so yeah, some loose plays, but hopefully okay. Good to get the win at least, so it's always a nice start. We will see you in game 2. Cheers. Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch. Back to game 2. Interesting hand. I don't mind it. Turn 1 Reclaimer, turn 2 Hold Up Reclaimer. Also have some nice interaction in Screws and Sword Supply shares. Obviously, Ramanap really nice with Reclaimer as well, getting back lands, so should be an interesting match. Not too sure up against. Hand a little bit slow against combo, but being a green-white-red deck, we don't have too much in the main deck for that anyway. Preordain. To me, I'm going to assume that means it's going to be a combo deck like Show and Tell. 1 top, 1 bottom. Alright. Grove. Just to put my opponent back a little bit, I don't mind Wasteland here. Wasteland, then hold up Sword and also attack with Reclaimer. But it's definitely interesting. I also have the option, if it is Show and Tell, to just hold up getting Caracas. Against, yeah, it's just so tough against a Volcanic Island deck to not just go for Wasteland there. I'm more likely to do it now that I have this second land as well. Crop Rotation would be kind of cool in this spot. Okay. This definitely feels like it's going to be Show and Tell. So I think Reclaimer into... probably into Flagstones first, and then into Caracas if I can get there, would be nice. But I do have to pressure my opponent as well. Opponent chose to not shuffle there. Okay, well now I don't need Caracas. So... I can either play Ooze and then start attacking next turn, or hold up Grove. Oh, sorry, hold up Reclaimer. So they're on 18. We play Scavenging Ooze, we attack if they go to 17, and then we have a 6-turn clock. If I don't attack, we can turn the Savannah into a Flagstones and then start ramping, which is probably better if we draw into Green Sun Zenith. It also means we can cast Ramanap next turn. No, because you have to do another turn. I don't mind Screws here. Screws and then attack with Ramanap. Sorry, attack with Reclaimer and just keep getting in. Because I can't be fiddling around too much with my mana base. This is definitely a matchup where I have to get in some amount of damage early on. Double Island. Definitely makes me think this can't be a Delver deck. It could be based on the double islands, but based on the preordained double ponder, I assume it's a combo deck looking for pieces. Chose to not shuffle. No Lotus Petals yet. That's obviously one of the bigger changes that you can see between Delver and Show and Tell. It does make Reclaimer bigger. This is going to be tough if it's just like land into Show and Tell. It's going to be Brainstorm. They could still have Soul Land or land Lotus Petal. Just another Flooded Strand. Okay. Wonder what color they fetch for. This could also be blue-white. Chose to shuffle with the ponder. Okay. Sack Savannah. Go and get flagstones. And I don't mind using this Windswept Heath to go and get a Dried Arbor to just keep that damage rolling. Another Reclaimer. So we have 6 damage, 6 damage. Or we have 2 damage. Yeah, it's a 3-tone clock either way. I don't think I have a way out of that. Because attacking with one here or using the Grove to gain them alive pretty much does the exact same thing. I can play the Caracas, which is nice. Tomb. Tomb Pass is interesting. Go and get, I guess, Plateau, because that means it means Punishing Fire off the top is just lethal, and then Wasteland. Grove. Guess we attack with all. 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Pretty much turns off the Ancient Tomb anyway. Could have actually played the Ramanap and then played the Flagstones. That's definitely better. I think I'm happy not playing the Ramanap here and not gaining them the life. But I feel like an intuition coming. No, okay. Surely something. Wow. Nuts. that felt like a very loose game where I just played a fair strategy and it got there. My opponent played, you know, Preordain, Ponder, Ponder, Brainstorm, Ponder, and just couldn't find a winning line. The one thing they did do well was only show the Volk. So let's go for the blast effects. I do like silence. One of the big things about silence is it means that if they go show and tell and we blast it, they can't counter it back. I don't want the punishing fires. I don't want the swords to plowshares. Probably don't want the cloths. A little bit too slow. I do like the veils. I don't mind the oof, but we didn't see Lotus Petal in game 1. I think this is a fair trade for these. Track is interesting, but we'll see how we go with all this hate. This is an okay hand, but it doesn't really have anything that we really want. The blast effects, the deafening silence. A little bit too fair. Okay. I'll keep this. I'm going to bottom the Savannah, because the Windswept Heath is pretty much the Savannah, but it puts a land in the graveyard for Reclaimer or Ramanap. Pond is going to be fine. Alright, Ponder chose not to shuffle. Fail. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm just going to hold up Windswept Heath here and then pass, because I don't have to cast the Veil until I want to cast something else, so I might as well just hold up here. Alright, let's see what we draw. Knight. That's pretty nice to put off a show and tell because it kills Omniscience. I'm gonna once here because I do want to find a second land to hold up like double Pyroblast or Pyro and Veil. And because of cards like Deafening Silence, I do want to have a shuffle effect in case there's like 2 Deafening Silence on top. I do want to make sure I can shuffle after once, so I won't fetch first. Nice. Petal's okay. Hardcast Sneak Attack would be pretty rough. So let's fetch first. They have 4 cards in hand and one has to be a payoff. I'm going to Pyroblast and then Veil. I could have Veiled first to see if they take any sort of bait. Brainstorm's going to be okay. I could Pyroblast this, but I think this is fine. That's pretty huge. We get to Wasteland here, then hold up Veil and Pyroblast again. And a land is actually pretty nice, because it also means that we could just go land past the next turn, have up Pyroblast, etc. But I do like the thought of just taking them off the red here. Nice. I actually don't mind holding up once here instead of playing out Dryad. Because it means we can play around counter magic and then play around counter magic. But opponent missing land drops is pretty huge. I'm also going to get just a forest here. No, I was going to say to play around Blood Moon, but we already have the Dryad, so pretty happy to go Taiga into once. Okay. Wasteland's pretty strong here. I kind of want another green source because then I can hold up the Taiga, which holds up both Veil or Pyroblast, but I think here I'm happy just to go land into Dryad, hold up Pyroblast. Still nothing for my opponent on 7 cards as well, which is pretty huge. Another Dryad. Alright, let's start off with once. Okay. Do you like me a fetch land? And then again, it's holding a Pyroblast and Veil. I do want to start building on my pressure though. This is going to be okay. I could be aggressive and Pyroblast this, but I'd rather keep the Pyroblast for show and tell. We don't currently have an out to them just putting in a creature, which is tough. Chose to shuffle. Pedal's okay. I am just gonna hold up. Ram it up. There we go. 1, 2, 3. I should have actually played the Wasteland. I guess it taps for any color, which is nice. So we can just go green. Another Dryad and then play another land. And now we get to hold up both Veil and Pyroblast. And then we can also end step fetch if they do nothing to have a 2-turn clock thanks to Dryad Arbor. Just to pass. Opponent goes to shuffle, or at least to discard. Pyroclasm, nice. Veil, alright. Winthrop Heath. Attack with everything. In a really good spot. Pyroclasm, interestingly enough, just only trades with the Dried Up, which can be replayed with the Ramanap. Interesting, just didn't have another red source. Didn't have another Lotus Petal. So pretty lucky there, because you know Night of Autumn pretty good at sorcery speed, answers to sneak attack, but otherwise, you know, at instant speed, it's really only Grizzlebrand there, because even Emrakul, we go to 2, we sack a bunch of lands, and we still have lethal on board. So pretty tough spot for my opponent, but pretty nice to get up there. All right, we'll see you in game 3. Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch, back with game 3 against the mighty Whizbit. On the play, which is nice, and the hand is interesting. Turn 1 Green Suns into Sylvan Library isn't too bad, so I actually am going to keep this. But it's going to be interesting to see what we play against. I could end it with Field, but I think turn 1 Green Suns into potentially turn 2 Library Playfield tapped is just a little bit too good. And to be fair, if we draw into another land, we don't have to play the field on turn 2. Could be like Sylvan Library Hold Up Swords. Huntmaster in hand as well, which I hope we can get off. That would be very cool to be able to cast. Deck's been performing pretty well so far, especially with a non-trained pilot like myself. But yeah, pretty happy with the results so far. Opponent goes to 6. They let me get the Dried Upper. We'll pass back. I wonder if something like that, like on MTGO, if that should be just be picked up that my opponent is on blue. Or if my opponent's a new player and maybe just scrolling over Green Suns to see what it does. Not too sure. Chrome Mox. Okay, well if this is a Blood Moon deck, that's going to be pretty tough. Oh, okay. This is going to be a quick, yeah, Lackey start. Okay. Ancient Tomb, sure. Chalice for 1? That would be brutal. Okay. Well, there goes Swords to Plowshares. This is pretty tough, because I do have to keep up the Sylvan Library, because I can't just pass with the Lackey open. I do have to hold the Dried Upper back for Goblin Lackey. Opponent has 3 cards in hand. 2 cards in hand. They are attacking. We're definitely blocking. No follow-up from my opponent. That's pretty nice for us. Land is great. Now we can get this Sylvan Library down, and then hopefully get Huntmaster online next turn. Opponent with currently only 1 red source, but they are only 1 red source away from Krenko as well. Sorry, the 6 mana one. Ooh, this might even be it. They kept the Lackey for a reason. It is Muxus. That's pretty good. Alright. With Krenko as well, I don't think we have an out to that, unfortunately. This is going to be a tough one. Anger of the Gods? Collect Oof Tracker? What don't I want? This is the interesting part. Maybe I don't want the tracker, to be fair. Maybe I'm happy with the dryads. Just these two. I can see myself dropping at least one library. And then, it might just be both libraries, to be fair. This deck can be very aggressive, so I don't want to be using my life total too much. Okay, I like this hand. Turn 1 Reclaimer, and then we have Punishing Fire open. Reclaimer also a nice out to Blood Moon if they're on a Blood Moon plan. Cavern's gonna be okay. Sure. Okay. This is actually interesting. I can either hold up the Windswept Heath, which means that the Reclaim is harder to kill, or I can hold up Punishing Fire. So if we play Flagstones, we can block the Reclaimer, but we don't beat something like... I actually like the Fetch because it beats out on Munitions Expert. No attacks, alright. I think I'm just going to get a Savannah here, and then turn the Savannah into a land. I could also just Punishing Fire. I think I like Punishing Fire here. Just to keep them off the Lackey, that's pretty crucial. To be fair, they could have experted in response, which would have been broken. Dryad. Nice. I'm going to attack. I actually should have got Grove of the Burn Willows, I think. I think that was the better play. Just to make sure that I had removal. Another Dryad. Doesn't do a whole lot here. Could have attacked as well, but I didn't. Matron's gonna be okay. I do have mana to cast the Punishing Fire, but I don't have another red source. I guess I do because of the Dryads. That's pretty nice. Gem Palm Incinerator. Okay. Okay. Alright. Go and sack Flagstones. I'm just going to get a Plateau, and then Reclaimer can go and get Grove. Vesuva, okay. I think I want to go for I'm gonna sack it. Okay. We will go to combat here, see if they do anything. They're gonna try to deal 1 to this. I reckon they have a the red spell in play. So actually in response, I'm going to get rid of the Skirk Prospector. Just to fizzle this Gem Palm Incinerator. It's just now does nothing. They get to draw a card, that's fine. I think here I'm happy to copy the Valakut. And then just have lethal next turn with the Prime Time. I should have definitely also played the Valakut first, or the copy of it, so that when I get it with Reclaimer... Actually, I couldn't have. All good. It was a little bit aggressive attacking with both Dryads, because they could go like haste creature, land, lackey attack with both. But luckily they didn't. Whew. Do I want to change anything? I don't think I do. I'm pretty happy just to send this back and hopefully have an opening that gives me access to either Swords or Punishing Fire. But this deck only has Knight of Autumn to deal with artifacts or enchantments outside of Collector Oof. So maybe potentially a change that I'd recommend post League is something like Force of Vigor in the board. Because, you know, if they play a Chalice, we have the Knight of Autumn, but outside of that, we don't have too much. I am going to keep this because it has the sword. And also have this Grove in case we find a Punishing Fire. Alright. Green Suns. Alright. See what land my opponent plays if they play anything first. They don't play anything. Interesting. Pretty happy just to get a Plains here. To be fair as well, I'm not too scared of Wasteland, because if they Wasteland my Savannah, the next turn I get to go Green Suns for Dryad Arbor. Just Skirk. Wasteland. Okay. Let's go and get Elvish. Blood Moon's fine. Especially seeing we have the Elvish Reclaimer out already. Perfect. I'm just gonna go Field Pass. Holding up Reclaimer. Ringly is okay. Warren Instigator, Muxus. Okay. Happy to take this. I am gonna sack the probably just the Savannah. Go and get a basic. Forest. Plains. Okay, that's pretty nice. I think here it's just hold up Elvish Reclaimer and Punishing Fire. And just hope my opponent... I guess they can't go Ancient Tomb into land, which is nice because of Blood Moon, but they are getting close to just hard casting the Muxus. War Chief. Okay. No great attack here for my opponent. Go and get a Flagstones. Pretty happy to attack here. And then next time we can play Primeval Titan. Create a Maker Matron, a few things. Okay. Blood Moon really good. Take out Flagstones. Green mana. I don't mind Dried Arbor. Dried Arbor fetch land. And just keep applying pressure with the Elvish Reclaimer. Swords to Plowshares a really nice draw because it also makes my opponent gain life, which turns on the Punishing Fire's return ability, which would be pretty sweet. But yeah, Blood Moon really shutting us down because it turns off the fields, it turns off the Valakut, which is obviously greater when Dryad Arbor is in play. But the field wins are definitely real, especially against a slower deck, or at least a Goblins deck that is currently running pretty slow for what it usually does. Skirk Prospector. Opponent maybe just going for Muxus. Okay. Ooze. Not great here. We'll take out the Skirk. I'm going to attack with both. I feel like the Reclaim has done its job, and if they want to try to put 2 creatures in front, that's going to be more than fine. I'll get a field to put it into play. Skirk, Matron, Lackey. Okay. No haste creature just yet, but they do have a Skirk now to start maybe turning some of their creatures into mana to get new creatures on board. Alright. Once. I think with the trigger on the stack for this, I guess we can't. My bad. There's also a world there where green is just better, because then I can cast the once and then have green open. I think that was actually the play. Well, I am definitely going to attack. Just pass back. This leaves open once and also Scavenging Ooze. Yeah, that's definitely going to be game. I don't think we can find anything off once. They can tap Krenko, make a bunch of stuff. A bunch of goblins. Rough. Too good. Yeah, goblin's definitely a tough one. We do have Anger of the Gods, which I surely brought in there. I can't actually remember. I believe we brought in Anger of the Gods. But yeah, otherwise to try to deal with go wide strategies and Blood Moon, it's really tough. So definitely something to change up maybe for another league. But yeah, Blood Moon really good there. Can't say much else. Let's hopefully bounce back for game 4. Thanks for watching. Hey, welcome back to game 4 with Punishing Reclaimer, and I think this hand is okay. A little bit slow based on what the once finds. If the once finds an Elvish Reclaimer, it's quite good because we can turn 1 Reclaimer, turn 2 Flagstones. It's a tough one because it really relies on the once, which could be anything. It could just be 5 lands, which would be really tough. It could be a few more 3-drops, which isn't great either. So I think there is a better 6. I think there's a better 6 with a few more options for turn 1. Well, this isn't it. I mean, this is pretty much the same hand, but with a prime time instead of the Dryad, and just a land instead of the one. So I'm actually going to go down to 5, and this is actually a pretty good hand. I'll keep this. I do want the Sylvan Library to recoup. I'm going to drop the Punishing Fire and the Field, and then hopefully turn 1 Reclaimer, turn 2 Library is good enough. To get all my colors online, I'm going to go for a Taiga here. Ponder, okay. Obviously can't play around days here, but Ponder chose not to shuffle, which is interesting. Field, okay. Let's see if Library resolves. Days is pretty big. Could have held the Reclaimer up there, but the field coming in tap next turn as well meant that I couldn't play the Library around days unless I drew a land. But like a Volk into Bolt here is pretty rough, or even a Misty into Volk. Underground Sea, maybe Fatal Push, Ponder, okay. This could be like a Grixis Delver deck, perhaps. Interesting. Wasteland would be cool. Another field. Alright. Well, now we're just holding up Elvish Reclaimer for sure. Druid. Okay, this could be the combo deck with the new card. Okay. I probably just want a Swords here. Get it out of the way. This plays around Force Negation. Green Suns. Okay. I don't mind field hold up Ramanap for Wasteland. Probably want to keep these lands because they tap for both my removal spells. So let's just go for Wasteland. Okay. Gonna get Savannah and Green Suns for Ramanap to start getting the Wasteland lock online. Force, sure. So target player discards 2 cards. That player may copy the spell and choose a new target for that copy. This is whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So you just keep pretty much casting this for free. You have no hand, but it seems pretty good. I assume maybe I should just, because it's a sorcery speed spell, hold my removal in hand until they actually go off and have no cards in hand. So that's definitely a learning curve. And I don't think copies are stopped by Deafening Silence. So this is an interesting one. I do like the Veils because it also stops hand disruption, which I assume is in the deck. Anger is at least a 1-for-1 with the creature, which is nice. I'm not too sure how much Night of Autumn does. Or Scavenging Ooze. Also Caracas. This is probably it. I don't mind a blast effect just to protect my stuff from counter magic. Probably just gonna go down on a once. Tiles track is interesting as well to try to grind out the game, but I'm not sure if that's better than Dryad. Maybe. Here we go. We'll try out Tracker. Why not? Why not? Dots play first. This is a 1 lander with a 1, so I'll keep this. Sure. Land pass and just hold up sword and also flagstones off Reclaimer. I actually don't mind like doing this so they can't respond to the fetch once they play a land to like remove this. They got Stifle. Okay, that's fine. Didn't know that deck played Stifle. I will fetch now though for a Taiga and pass. Cycle Straight Wraith, interesting. All right. It's going to hold up Reclaimer here, and also swords. I also think about my red sources, because this anger has to be cast at some point. Always tough playing against new combo decks because you're never too sure what you're supposed to play around. Ponder chose not to shuffle. Stifle's okay. Okay. Probably don't mind just attacking here for 6 and putting him on a 3-turn clock, holding up Pyroblast and Sword. I am actually going to hit this. Just because the Pyroblast doesn't do anything against hand disruption, and the sword is fine if they try to go off and they have 0 cards in hand, but something like Thoughtseize is going to be pretty tough. So I don't mind trading there with the Brainstorm. Okay. Copy Savannah. Should have copied the anger because it gives me a second red source. That's actually just an incorrect play. Not much I can do there. Okay. On the draw, I don't mind the extra Pyroblast. The carpets are actually pretty interesting. I don't mind these. Seeing Stifle is obviously pretty tough. I think I might just drop the onces. That seems okay. I guess Deafening Silence is actually pretty good. I'm definitely going to keep this. Because it means that if my opponent casts Chain of Smog once, then we can respond with a removal spell and they can't do anything after that. Just going to lead on this carpet, see if they do anything. Okay. I will fetch. They could daze it, but I don't really care about that at the moment. We have 3 lands, which is nice, so... They're ready to use 2 days. See what we draw, but there might be a consideration just to hold up the Clots one more turn. To play the Clots with Veil up. Uro's fine. I will swords it, I think. I could also just wait for them to replay it. Just kind of forces them to do something next turn outside of just winning. Because the swords already answers the Uro, and then we have the Veil to cover the swords, so... Wasteland's actually pretty interesting. I can't really play around Stifle, because I kind of want to get a Savannah to hold up both Swords and Veil off like Windswept Heath. But I don't mind trying. I'm going to fetch in response to the Force here. Get Savannah. Veil. Nice. They have 2 cards left. They don't currently have green, green, blue, blue, but they could just have 4 mana and have the creature and Smog, which is tough. Green, green, blue, blue. Okay. Not too bad. It pulls their full turn in, which is nice. We could hopefully just answer this with the Swords to Plowshares. Thoughtseize. Well, that definitely answers it. Thoughtseize really strong there. I will fetch for End-Step Driedupper and then try to copy it with Vesuva, just so I have a few blocks for Uro, just in case we need to buy some time. I'll do 6. Which does give away that we didn't draw into removal, but that's okay. Cloth is pretty cool. It's a Green Sun's target that if you don't have Devotion, you can get it into play through a Containment Priest, which is pretty nice. Ponder was a no shuffle. Dryad. I don't mind keeping a land back here, just in case we draw into like a Valakut. And there isn't really a good wasteland target at the moment, so I'm pretty happy just to pass. Ritual Doomsday. Okay. I sadly don't think we have an out, even if they Doomsday for a few lands and Dancer's Oracle, so I think it's pretty easy to concede here, unfortunately. Just not too much of a fight we can put up. Just really need to draw into, like, even Green Suns isn't the greatest. I guess we could Green Suns. I mean, they go up to, they're going up to 9, go up to 12. Maybe there's a world where we could try to get there with Green Suns into Titan. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Yeah, it would have been tough. I guess we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 mana off the Clots, 7 off the Dried Arbor. You'd have to think they would have something for that, but yeah, just a tough one. We'll hopefully see you in game 5 for a closer match. Cheers. Hey, welcome back to Dukes on Twitch, playing against Kimu in game 5, and this hand is okay. I'm going to keep this. Turn 1 Elvish Reclaimer, turn 2 either hold up Elvish Reclaimer or Punishing Fire. I will fetch straight up as well. Probably for a Savannah, and go from there. Elvish Reclaimer really nice because it also gives us outs against a Blood Moon deck. As it says, sack a land, not sacrifice a forest or plains like another Reliquary, so that's pretty awesome. This could be Maverick. Plains. Swords. Okay, that's pretty good. Sylvan Library is a fantastic draw. Exactly what you want here, because I really need to dig for my 3rd land. Either for Punishing Fire, get it back, or another creature. Probably the best draw I could have gotten there. Opponent has no pressure either, so I'm pretty happy to probably pay up to 8 life straight away. Probably Green Suns for 1 here. Okay. Opponent just wanting to build out their mana. That's fine. I'm pretty happy to Punishing Fire that. Okay. I'm going to pay for both of these. Punishing Fire this, play field tapped and pass. Wasteland's fine. I wonder if Wasteland goes up to Grove here. Okay. Thalia's fine. If I can land Clothis here, I'd be very happy. Another Grove is perfect. Put on top. I actually don't mind pay here, just so I have another red source that isn't Clothis. No, maybe a bit too greedy. Seeing basics early on, which is interesting. My opponent could be on a Skyclave Apparition build, which would take care of the Clothis pretty nicely. So hopefully that doesn't occur. 3 mana. Green Suns? Yeah, okay. Maybe for Noble Hierarch just to keep the beats going. That's fair. Okay. Put on top. Put on top. I think I just want to eat Wasteland and make red and deal with the Noble. It's definitely interesting. I could also just play double Dryad. I don't mind that. I probably want to get back Punishing Fire, just in case of Green Suns for Scavenging Ooze or Scavenging Ooze itself. So I might actually just hold up mana here. Scavenging Ooze would really take over this game. Questing Beast is okay. A little bit rough, but it will be okay. I'm just going to return this now. Take the 5. Try it up is fine. Valakut's on top, which is nice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think that works the way it does. Now I probably want to gain life here just in case. So let's take out the Noble. Valakut, trigger, Questing Beast, sack this, red source, Questing Beast. Pass back with Punishing Fire open. Thalia hopefully taxing my opponent more than me. Ooh, swords on this. That is fine. Take the 1. I don't mind paying for both of these. Put on top, pay. We will just eat Thalia. I'll actually eat Questing Beast. Play Dryad. Land. Trigger. Yeah, that's a really tough spot for my opponent. Maverick is going to be interesting. I do like the oof. I don't mind the anger. What do I want to drop is the big question. If anything, a lot of these cards are really strong. There's not really any main deck cards for combos, so I actually like this a lot. It could just be 2 onces to be fair. I actually don't mind that. Pretty easy. This seems like a really interesting matchup against Maverick. Having the Swords to Plowshares as just 1/1 removal is really good. Punishing Fire can be really effective at slowing down their ability to go wide. It looks like a green-white build so far. We haven't seen a third color yet, I don't believe. We did see a lot of basics, so 2 Forest and Plains is generally what you see across most decks, if not 1 Forest, 1 Plains, so maybe the second Forest shows this is going to be just a pretty normal build. A lot of card draw, which is nice. I don't mind this hand. It doesn't have removal early on, but it does have some ways to pressure through card advantage, which I do like, so I will keep this. Leyline. Okay. Luckily we have Green Suns. Leyline, an interesting one. Mum's gonna be okay. Suva. Okay. I'm just gonna go for a basic here in Forest, and then Green Suns for Dried Arbor. Savannah. Another Mum. Okay. It's gonna be tough. Green Suns for 0. Okay. Really building out their mana. I think I just like Sylvan Library pass and then next turn play Tracker with a land drop. Could also go with Tracker here, which makes more use of our mana. I don't mind that, especially since we're not really getting wastelanded any time soon. Put it down to 2 cards, now 3. Their own track is really solid. That's going to be a tough one to beat, especially with double Mum. They have 1 card left. So it's going to be the Black Splash. Interesting. Okay. Don't mind Wasteland trigger. Elvish Reclaimer trigger. Sorry, Elvish Reclaimer and then just Sylvan Library. And then probably wasteland my opponent off the bayou before they can use it for something. But they can just go nuts with this Tiles Tracker, especially with double Mum. Found a Swords. It's not too bad seeing we get to replace it with the Sylvan Library, and we've already replaced the Swords to Plowshares with the Clue. Should wasteland me. They're not going to. Put on top, pay for this. Still no Wasteland. Interesting. I'm actually just 2 swings away from death, so I don't think we can get there just with the swords in field. The double mum's really tough, but I don't have a great way to deal with that. Oof is interesting, but I don't think they're going to be on a Stoneforge line. I think I'm happy just hopefully sending this back and getting there with some early removal for early creatures, and then just going wider a little bit quicker with our mana base. But yeah, Maverick a tough one. Tracker really solid in these sort of matchups. Can really run away, especially if you have protection for it. I think Tracker's a really valuable card for Maverick, or green X decks, because it just performs so well at replacing itself, providing some card advantage, pressuring your opponent. It's pretty awesome. Pretty cool that the tokens or the clues just need to be sacked for you to get triggers on the tiles tracker. You don't have to pay 2 to sack it. So if your opponent attacks with like an Emrakul for 6, and for the Annihilator you get rid of some clues because you sacrifice them to an Annihilator, tiles tracker still gets +1/+1s, which is pretty cool. Little things. Not the greatest hand. I think it's just, yeah, I can't rely on just the swords. It has to be a good hand. This is okay. To turn 2 Clothis. I'm going to keep this in bottom there for Suva. Leyline's okay. Taiga into Green Suns for Dried Arbor. Could have gone basic to play around like swords and then Wasteland, but hopefully this is okay. Leyline really strong, especially in this version with no, just Knight of Autumn as the only interaction with Leyline and enchantments and artifacts. Thoughtseize, okay. Not the worst. Opponent probably taking Clothis. They probably know that Clothis is only maybe a 1 or 2 off, and Dryad's probably a 4 off. Wow, they keep interesting. We're pretty happy to get that down. Maybe opponent not worried too much about Clothis with Leyline in play. Mum. Double mum. Grove. Alright, let's... once first. Knight of Autumn, that's a start. Land, attack for 1. Double mum again. Leyline double mum again is really tough. I'm not going to say there's no way out of it, but it's going to mean we have to grind very hard. I'm just going to fetch now for a plateau. I guess I could have kept that untapped and played the knight to make sure the fetch doesn't go to exile, but hopefully this is okay. Opponent also in a position to hardcast other ones, which is tough. Definitely adds up. At least now we can 6. We have no cards in hand. We have nothing to really show, so really grove or bust. Sword's strong. Screws is very relevant because it just shuts off the Clothis. Cavern, interesting. Opponent eats it, that's fine. Pass back. Sylvan Library is probably our best draw. Just a way to really start getting some card advantage going. And the Screws right now is a great answer to the Clothis, so I have no pressure whatsoever. It's also a great answer to Punishing Fire. I probably just want to sack flagstones here. Go and get Field of the Dead and just copy Field and start getting some aggression that way. That's fine. The ley line's fine. The Screws was kind of covering that anyway, so not too unhappy there. Best thing I could get is definitely a Dryad, because Dryad with Reclaimer means I can go and get. It's not too bad either. Start churning down creatures with Valakut. Opponent thinking. There's no real need to use the Elvish Reclaimer here. I do want to keep both fields in play, so I think I'll just hold it up till end step. Try to get another Flagstones going. We do have another Savannah in play, so I can actually use that, which is nice. Knight is okay. Knight's a pretty good answer for the fields, though. I don't think Flagstones actually works the way I want it to because of the ley line. But I will still get it. Swords, it's okay. Grove Huntmaster. Put on top. Pay for this. At least the Reclaimer can kind of answer the Knight as well, so anything they wasteland we can just sacrifice to the Reclaimer. Interesting game. No attacks. Land? Okay. Wow, nothing? Is the Huntmaster just going to flip here? It's pretty cool. Not going to use the Reclaimer either. I could shuffle with the Reclaimer, but I'm just going to look what's on top. Ooh, okay. Okay. So we can't deal with the ley line, which is tough, which means that the Punishing Fire isn't as good as I thought it would be. Alright. I don't really want to attack with the Ravager of the Fells, but I do get to get rid of one mum here, which is nice. This also flips the Ravager. There's also a world that I just want to go after Knight here and let them have the mums. Or the Ooze, because then it turns back on the Clothis. It's actually an interesting one. I'm going to hold this for now. So if we go after the mums, it makes everything else a little bit better. We know about the anger on top, which is pretty bad, so I'll probably just make that go away. So I actually don't mind going after the Clothis here. After the Knight, letting them have the mums. And then I get to attack you with the Ravager, which is nice. I don't believe my opponent's going to be playing something like Step, so this should be okay. That'll be very left field. Probably just getting a canopy here. Or a fetch land to gain life, perhaps? Okay. I guess I get a pretty good attack here with these 3. There's no creatures in the bin. There's no first strike, so they don't want to like sack for Dried Arbor and then like eat it with ooze before anything, so this should be fine. Yeah, this is okay. Two spells also flips the Delver, which is nice. That's fine. Not flips the Delver, flips the Ravager. Oh, the Noble's okay. Interesting. Alright. Might just get a fetch land here, because that's also very good with Dryad. I'm just going to pass here with the Huntmaster. This will at least tap a Mum as well. Oh, did I misclick? I think I did. Yeah. It's up to, so I don't actually target anything. Whoops. Whoops to say the least. Wasteland's pretty good, but we can just sack whatever we want to it. I will fetch here. Just get some new stuff on top of the library. Okay. Nice. Put on top. I'm probably okay to pay for this. Green. Green Suns for Dryad. Play Ooze. This will flip the Ravager as well. Hold up Sword. Hold up Reclaimer. Huntmaster really solid here, just making sure I can stay in this game, because Scavenging Ooze is just really good at pressuring with double Mum, but they just haven't been in a position to attack. They're going to try to sword something here. No. Knight is fine. I'm going to use Reclaimer here and get a Wasteland just to see if I can maybe force them to use the Wasteland before I go and get Valakut. Just while I'm tapped out. They might use the Wasteland here. They don't. Okay. Interesting. Put on top. Pay for this. Play Valakut. Trigger. I think this might just be it. What a game. Cloth is also online. They're going to try to wasteland the Valakut. In response, I'll sack. Let me just quickly think about this. I do want to hold up that just in case. So let's go for Sacks Forest. Another field. That's pretty strong. But now we're down on, yeah, maybe that was incorrect, because now we're down on to 3 lands. I should have gotten a different one. I guess we'll see. No, that does it. Wow, that does it. I have to learn my Valakut math, but very cool. Very nice to finish at 3-2. This deck was sweet. Let's go back to Decktech. There obviously was a gap in removal for artifacts or enchantments, but I think that's pretty easy to change up in the board. The sweeper was nice, but I think we could probably do with something like Force of Vigor in the sideboard. We do have a really high count of green cards. We also have some ramp, so we have the ability to also just hardcast it pretty early on. But the Deafening Silence Pyro, that's great against combo. You could probably either trim 2 of these, maybe even the Veils, and have some room for either like another Night of Autumn or 2 Force of Vigors. The Carpets are also pretty good, especially because you have a lot of mana to do things, so that's interesting. Tireless Tracker was pretty solid. A pretty nice way to make sure you're just getting value off a lot of your draws and turning your lands into spells, hopefully, once you cycle the clues. But all in all, the deck felt pretty good. I think it comes down to, well, at least a lot of it is just my experience with the deck. Being a Maverick player, I love to just jam things on the board when a lot of the time a turn 1 Reclaimer into turn 2 Flagstones just means you should hold up Reclaimer instead of doing something like, you know, maybe green sunning for another Reclaimer or casting a Scavenger Ooze or something. But yeah, the deck felt really cool. The mana base felt okay as well. I think it was a good number of fetch lands and groves and fields. Obviously in that last game I should have fetched something else, but we live and learn. This was, yeah, a really fun league. A huge thank you to Renato for the list. A big fan of the Green Sun Zenith, which is cool to see. But yeah, if you have any comments about the deck, let me know in the comments below. If you like this content, definitely consider subscribing and liking. It does a lot for the channel. It's been really cool. It's been really cool to put out this sort of content on YouTube for YouTube viewers. So big props to you. That's me. I'll see you next time, either on Twitch Thursdays and Sundays. Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays around 10:30, 11 a.m. And then of course have this YouTube content coming out usually once a week, which I'm just trying to stay on top of. But yeah, these donation deck lists really help. If you want to send me a donation deck list, you can find out information in the video description as well, or on the Green Sun Zenith under support. Yeah, all the best, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.